Since erupting in 2014, the brutal conflict in Yemen has dragged on for a decade. Yemeni civilians continue to bear the brunt of the fighting, enduring unimaginable crimes and atrocities. On a broad international legal scale, the war in Yemen is referred to as a forgotten war. But the memory of millions of Yemenis, especially those who have been affected by this war, cannot easily forget what happened. Memory is one of the few things without which humanity could not flourish. And when the memory of peoples carries so much tragedy, it is difficult to flourish or talk about it. The memory of Yemenis needs a new slate, as forgetting the painful past enables us to look to the present and the future, to reflect and learn. But how can we forget all these horrors without providing justice to the victims and redressing their harm? Historically, redress for harm in war was sought by the victors of the conflict, where the victorious countries were trying to recover the costs of the war from the losing parties. With the emergence of international human rights law, there has been increasing recognition of the individual as a person subject to international law and of the right of individuals to redress when they are subjected to international wrongs, and that individuals may request such redress through their countries or directly from the responsible parties. In Yemen, since the war began, warring parties have taken lives, shattered families, destroyed cities and lands, and destabilized the futures of millions. The war has affected every aspect of daily life. Warring parties have killed civilians at weddings, mournings, fishermen working on their boats at sea, and families safe in their homes, planted mines, displaced people from their homes, and caused extensive damage to essential public infrastructure, including markets, schools, farms, and hospitals. According to various estimates, the conflict in Yemen has killed more than 230,000 people, displaced at least 4 million others, reversed at least 2 decades of human development, and left the vast majority of the country's population in need of some form of humanitarian assistance. Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates voted in favor of every UN General Assembly resolution, all of which upheld the principle that a state that commits an international wrong can owe reparations to individuals harmed by that wrong. The internationally recognized Yemeni government, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other coalition states have made limited efforts to investigate and respond to reports of civilian harm caused by their forces. These states have established independent but affiliated committees that have played some role in a process that has ultimately resulted in condolence payments to a small number of civilian casualties from airstrikes. In 2016, the Joint Incidents Assessment Team, the coalition's investigative committee, recommended that compensation be provided to civilians affected by an airstrike that caused mass civilian harm. By 2017, coalition officials publicly said the coalition would respond to the Joint Incidents Assessment Team's recommendations for compensation. By early 2018, victims hadn't even received a phone call, and they had no idea where to file complaints. In August 2018, the coalition and the Yemeni government announced that they had formed a joint committee to distribute voluntary assistance. The first installment of this aid only arrived nearly a year later. In June 2019, a coalition spokesman announced that the Joint Committee had selected 6 different airstrikes for which the coalition had provided assistance. By then, the coalition had conducted hundreds of airstrikes, many of which appeared to be unlawful and had caused significant civilian harm. The money was given without apology or acknowledgement. Instead, some recipients were asked to sign a document describing it as voluntary assistance for those harmed by the coalition's mistakes. Neither the coalition nor the Yemeni government provided any form of assistance. For the vast majority of victims of other types of unlawful conduct, for example, detention-related violations, were ignored. On the other hand, the Ansar Allah armed group has also established committee related to redress. In particular, the group has established the Grievances Redress Committee and the Justice Committee, both of which are publicly mandated to hear complaints against members of the Ansar Allah group and requests for assistance and redress. In most cases, those who have applied to Ansar Allah affiliated committees have not received any form of verifiable assistance. Under international law, redress should seek to restore the injured party to the maximum extent possible to its position before the violation. Redress may take one or several forms, including restitution, financial compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and the guarantees of non-repetition. Redress occupies a special place among justice measures because it can directly affect victims of violence. It is important to involve victims in the design and implementation of reparations measures. And accordingly, consultations with victims have been given priority in several countries. In Sierra Leone, the Truth Commission recommended a comprehensive reparations program, including free healthcare, educational support, skills training, microcredit and microenterprise loans, community-based compensation, symbolic compensation, housing and pensions, and a number of institutional reforms. In 2010, President Ernest Bai Koroma publicly apologized to victims for failing to protect them during the armed conflict. The Sierra Leone Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established in July 2002, 6 months after the end of the 11-year civil war. The commission's posters and leaflets featured slogans such as "Truth hurts, but war hurts more," and television plays and songs appealed to listeners through messages like, "Let us come with open hearts and open minds to make peace in Sierra Leone." The Commission's Statute of 2000 stated that truth-telling is the primary way by which the Commission seeks to achieve the 5 objectives of its mandate: preparing an impartial historical record of violations and abuses, addressing impunity, responding to the needs of victims, promoting healing and reconciliation, and preventing the recurrence of violations and abuses that occurred. In doing so, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission contributed to the rebuilding of Sierra Leone. The call for reparations is a call for justice for the millions of civilian lives lost, destroyed, and stolen during the ongoing conflict. The cost of war should not fall on those who do not participate in the hostilities. As in the experience of Sierra Leone, Rwanda, South Africa, and other countries around the world, victims in Yemen are supposed to participate in designing the reparations process. Yemenis need to forget what happened to them, and they cannot forget anything without talking about it and coming to terms with it.